Hello, everybody. Welcome back to section two of the testimony of Brian, civil engineer who's been doing a great deal of research into, solar and lunar eclipse data and how that applies to different models of the Earth, the heliocentric spherical Earth model versus the flat Earth geocentric model. And we're just sort of getting back into the second recording session. And prior to setting this up, Brian went through a great deal of laptop acrobatics in order to film the screen of one laptop using another laptop. And so it was a bit difficult and tricky getting it set up, but I think all in all, we were able to achieve the visuals that Brian wanted to have up while we had this section going. So, kicking off section two, again, this is John the Morgile with Brian, and here we go.
Oh, so when we started yakking about the work experience, what I did this morning was by memory trying to recall where all the field investigations were done. And I had a hard time, just so people know, I'm hovering over two computers, blind to both, trying to spin this thing around. And so that's just kind of a layout of, I know you can't, it's not really necessary to distinguish what is written. So let's start to zoom in. I guess we can start at the Amtrak. So that was just a tag Mobile, and just north of the site, or north of Mobile, is where the site is.
Okay, and that's the one where the barge nailed the bridge.
Right. So if you remember from those photos from YouTube, there was the junction where the barge should have done this.
Yep.
And they took this. I measured this out earlier, and I just don't have the dexterity to do it now, but it's about half a mile from this fork to the bridge. And there's the I can get rid of that icon.
That's a very interesting little snake. Like if you see like where the T is in Amtrak, there's like a very snakish river or like a little creek, I guess, or maybe that's some sort of pathway. I don't know. Yeah, so there's that site, and we kind of see where everything went wrong. That's what we were talking about previously.
Down here was the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, the old one. You can see where, again, this is the old one where they demolished the general portion, and the new one adjacent to it. So we did our testing on one of these old sections when it was abandoned. And again, this investigation was to look at how galvanized reinforcement was doing in the bridge deck in the salt environment. But from here,
And what exactly happened with this Sunshine Skyway Bridge?
well, no, it wasn't really so much what was happening. It was a performance from ILSRO, which is the International Lead Zinc Research Institute or organization, ILSRO. And so we looked at either 13 bridges in 9 states, or nine bridges in 13 states, and to see how the performance of reinforcement was over a 30-year lifetime.
Mhm.
And so we did the sampling on core samples from the deck side and down to the level of reinforcement, and measured the effect of the concrete cover, and if there was any site of corrosion occurring on the reinforcing bars.
Yeah.
So,
From what I remember, recently sort of learning is that the American bridges system is sort of in the state of utter collapse, and it's going to be, it's just a matter of time if we keep going the way that we're going, that we're just going to have all sorts of problems with bridges because, all the tax money that's supposed to be going to things like keeping, maintaining bridges is just fattening some, bureaucrats' pockets, and ultimately only a small percentage of the bridges get the attention that they, need.
Well, what happens is it's the bureaucracy of I was a director at the Precast Concrete Institute, and for all these um, areas of civil engineering and construction and concrete properties, that they all have these consortiums, and everyone sits on these panels and they kind of try and come up with recommendations and standards and requirements. And so you've got a bunch of egos in the same room and representatives from, say, manufacturers and design and consultants. And so you've got 30 people with the alphabets after their name sitting in a room and, basically trying to order a pizza. And you finally get an idea to incorporate as a standard rule or recommendation or common practice, and all of a sudden someone just doesn't like cheese, and so they have to go back. And so again, while all this is going on, that these guys are go down, they meet once or twice a year and try and figure out how to rewrite specs and recommendations, and building codes is the other. And by the time they all agree on the same thing, years and can go by. And I spent about 2.5 years on temporary assignment in our Seattle office. And this icon is just the manager that was working out there, just a tremendous, tremendous individual. And didn't really have to use a policeman's figure, but he was my manager. And one of the more important principles I learned from Bill was that a bad decision is better than no decision. And
Yeah.
when people are standing around not knowing, again, that gets back to the way these design panels and in repair spec people get together, that they don't come up with a decision. It's just spinning wheels, and it's better to put something down than nothing at all. And um, Bill was quite a good manager to work with, but he let me go and worked on the floating bridges.
Something that I think that would be interesting to hear, and I don't know which of these you might be able to point to, is just a case where you have some large corporation or another, and you don't even necessarily have to say names, but where you've basically used their own accounts or used their own numbers to prove that they were either lying or being dishonest or being disingenuous to try and, basically pass the buck off to someone else.
Well, litigation is essentially two people that see the same facts but have a different opinion on what the truth is.